Hello everyone, and welcome to this SOLIDWORKS 22-minute webinar, Big Benefits from a Simple Data Management Strategy. My name is Cliff, and I'm going to be your host, and we're going to jump right in and get started as we have a lot to cover in a short amount of time. And with that, I wanted to introduce our presenter today, Kurt Lundstedt. Kurt Lundstedt is the Data Management Product Manager for SOLIDWORKS with over 30 years of industry experience, 15 of those years with design and manufacturing companies, and 15 here at SOLIDWORKS.
All right. Well, thank you, Cliff, and thanks everybody for tuning in today. I'm going to go over some things on a presentation, and then we're going to get into a demonstration of our product. So, first, a thought here. So, even if you don't have a formal data management system, you're still paying for managing your data. So, you know, one thing that we've heard that people that don't use data management say it's too expensive, but you're actually spending time managing your data, and you know that time could be eliminated by using a data management system. So, some of the basic challenges from managing SOLIDWORKS files on a shared drive, as many are doing today. So, performance is one. When you open files and save files over a network, that takes longer than it does if you're opening and saving those files right to your local drive. And the other challenge that you have is managing versions, and maybe you don't even try to manage versions because it's pretty difficult. The other challenge that you have is renaming and moving files. So you have to do that inside SOLIDWORKS or using SOLIDWORKS Explorer. You have to be careful and maybe reset your search path. So that can take some extra time. And searching, of course, Windows you can search in, but searching in SOLIDWORKS PDM is a lot easier. It's built right into Windows Explorer. You can search on a number of different attributes of the file instead of just its name or location. So why does, let's look at performance. So why does network storage impede performance? So opening and saving files over a network takes a lot of transactions. There's a lot of packets that go back and forth, and when you open and save, those packets are sent and confirmed and so it takes a lot of transactions over just copying a file. Copying files from one place to another doesn't take as long. It is faster, like I just said, but it is a manual operation. So if you're going to store your files on a network drive but want to have the performance benefits of working locally, you have to copy them down, work on them, save them, and then copy them back to the shared drive. And at the same time, somebody else might be trying to do the same thing on those same files. It doesn't keep track of who's working on what. You know, that's what I just mentioned, is you can run into some issues that way. It unnecessarily copies files. You're copying files that you might not need to bring down, but you bring them all anyways because you don't know which ones are newer, which ones are the same. And it leads to lots of duplicates. So when you're copying files from different areas to your hard drive, you wind up with multiple copies, and then it leads to complications on which one is the latest version. So one of the things that I talked about is performance. I want to show you a quick example of something that I did on my system where I set up a network share on a server. I'm based in the Chicago area. The server was based at our corporate headquarters in Waltham, and I was on a VPN. And so I wanted to do a test where I said I opened up an assembly, a small SOLIDWORKS assembly, right from the shared network folder, and I did the same thing inside of PDM, where PDM had to copy those files from the server to my local cache and my local machine, and then SOLIDWORKS would open them up. Okay, so as I said, the network folder on the same server, the same PDM archive server, which is what our archive server is the server that stores all the physical files in our system, and the SOLIDWORKS PDM local cache is cleared. So in PDM, you have a local cache on your machine where files are open and saved to. So it's much quicker, but those files are always connected to the server, so you know which are newer and which are older and so forth. So let's take a look at the network drive. So this is the little timer here, and this is time lapse. So I've sped this up so we don't have to wait the full 63 seconds that this will take. But as you can see down at the bottom of the SOLIDWORKS window there, you can see it's opening from a network drive, and it's taken some time. It's got to open the files over the network, and all those packets are going back and forth. Takes a ton of transactions to do this, and this was so it just took about 63 seconds. I should mention that the latency between my ping, just a low-level ping between my machine and the server was about 36 milliseconds. And so times would vary, but let's take a look at what doing the same thing in SOLIDWORKS PDM would do. So this is the PDM Vault, and you can see by that little icon on the side that none of the files are local, but they still show up. And so I'll browse into the Vault and pick that same assembly, hit open, and then start the little stopwatch. So in this case, it has to copy all the files from that same server to my local cache, and then SOLIDWORKS opens them up. So that same test on those same two, the same two machines, basically, it takes 17 seconds. So it's almost 4 times faster to open these files in PDM as it is to open them from a shared drive. So the other challenge that we talked about was maintaining versions. So there's manual methods, such as you create a folder with maybe the assembly name and put Rev A, Rev B, Rev C after it and copy files around. You rename the files, maybe use SOLIDWORKS Explorer to put a suffix or a prefix onto the files like Rev A or something like that. You can zip the files up. You might zip the whole assembly up and call it Rev A in a zip file. But there are some issues. So assembly version structure is lost. This method doesn't remember what versions of which files are used within that assembly. So with PDM, it'll remember that maybe in version 4 of an assembly used version 2 of a part file, and maybe another assembly uses version 3 of that same part file. So PDM automatically captures that for you, where when you do it the manual way, you don't have any way of recapturing that. It leads to lots of duplicate files. You wind up zipping up files and copying files that are exactly the same, but because you don't have any other way to store them, you just duplicate them. And it's hard to track what's changed. A lot of times you don't know who did what to what file when, and that's all automatically captured in PDM. The other challenge is renaming and moving files. So if you rename files outside of SOLIDWORKS, it will corrupt the reference, right? So if you're in Windows Explorer and you're in your shared drive and you move some files from one folder to the next, SOLIDWORKS goes to look for those files and they won't be there. Or if you rename a file, same thing, SOLIDWORKS won't be able to find it, and you'll get this dialog box that I'm sure you've all seen. And if you do rename inside of SOLIDWORKS, it'll update the references for all the assemblies that are currently open in SOLIDWORKS, but the ones that aren't, it won't. So when you rename in PDM, all that's taken care of. So the solution for our PDM solution is built into Windows Explorer. So if you like Windows Explorer, you can keep Windows Explorer. It's electronic. There is a built-in workflow. Even PDM standard comes with a workflow. But you don't really have to use it. If workflow's not something you're interested in right away, you don't have to use it. You just have to have one state, and that's it. And I'll show you an example of that. Efficient. It's one place to go. You don't have to have multiple storage areas for your documents and different network shares. You have one place to go find it. It's engineering capable. It means it understands the file relationships between SOLIDWORKS files, can read custom properties, can read title block information from DWG or DXF files, and other CAD types. And economical. It's SOLIDWORKS PDM standard is part of, it's built into or comes with the SOLIDWORKS Professional, SOLIDWORKS Premium, and SOLIDWORKS PDM Professional is an additional cost, but it all comes. It's not a bunch of different modules to buy. So let's take a quick overview of the product line. So as I mentioned, we have SOLIDWORKS PDM Professional, which was previously known as Enterprise PDM. We renamed it for the 2016 release to SOLIDWORKS PDM Professional. It's a full-featured data management geared towards larger organizations, maybe that they require a higher level of automation, like automatic document creation, automated ways of creating folder structures, that type of thing. Worldwide replication, so if you have sites all over the world and you want to replicate the data to them, that's where PDM Professional would be used, and multiple integrations to other applications like other CAD programs, Inventor, Solid Edge, Pro Engineer, AutoCAD. We have integrations and add-ins to those type of tools, as well as Microsoft and PDF documents. We have SOLIDWORKS PDM Standard, which is new for 2016. It is based on the same architecture as PDM Professional. So it's for smaller single-site organizations whose primary need is to manage SOLIDWORKS and draft site data, or DWG-DXF formats. It is, like I said, it is based on the same architecture, so if and when your needs would change and you want more capabilities, it's really just an upgrade from going from standard to professional. There's no migration. The data is all stored in the same structure inside of SQL, and it's very easy to upgrade. And then we also currently have our SOLIDWORKS Workgroup PDM, which is an older PDM system that's being phased out, and PDM Standard will be replacing Workgroup PDM. Let's take a look at SOLIDWORKS PDM in action here. I'm going to run a video and kind of narrate along with it. So what I'm going to do here is open up our administration tool. So this is the tool that an administrator would use to set up a new vault or to configure the vaults that are there. So what you're seeing here is a look at that, and then there's I have my machine. I've got another machine up on the top there, but that's just because I've got more than one machine that I'm connected to here. But so we'll just go ahead, and what I'm going to do is just create a brand new vault. So you would just I just want to give you an impression on what it takes to set up a vault. So you just create the new vault. You can pick whether it's a professional vault or a standard vault. I'm going to pick a PDM professional vault here and just give it a name. Let's call it PDM QS for quick start, and you'll see where that comes in a minute. Choose where you want the archives to be. That's the physical files. Choose the SQL, so you would install SQL Express and connect to that. The SQL Express is included in the SOLIDWORKS installation media. You can pick your date format and your language. And in this case, there's a number of different predefined vaults that we have available. So there's the default vault, which has a more full-featured or bigger set of data cards and more complex workflow and that type of thing. The second choice there is an empty vault where it doesn't have any workflows, no data cards, no variables, no nothing. It's just kind of set up there for you to configure from the ground up. And then the third choice there, the quick start, is what we'll choose here, and that has a minimal set of information predefined in it that just gets you up and going. So we'll go ahead and complete that. And once we click Finish here, it's going to start creating the database and everything that it needs for this vault. And if you look over on the left side there, I've got a professional vault, which is that gold-colored icon, and I've got another PDM standard vault there that we'll take a look at in a little bit once we get our new vault here created. So this is all real time, so I didn't speed this up or anything. So we'll log into that vault we just created, and as you can see different nodes. Here's the data card. So there's one data card that displays data for SOLIDWORKS. There's one folder card. You can define more if you want. And this is kind of a simple workflow. It's got 3 states, and it's got some transitions between those states. So you can go from work in process to pending approval, and then you can have another path that says no approval required. So some users might be able to have permission to use that one. Like a manager might be saying, well, that doesn't need to go through the review process. Maybe it's a vendor purchase part or something like that. And so you can modify these. You can we can change the icon. We can change what users can do at each one of these states. So I'll just do a quick icon change here. And it's just to show you that it's very easy to configure the system. It's all point and click. It's not typing code or anything like that. And that's basically it. I can add more states to that if I want. The next thing I'm going to do is add a new column to Windows Explorer. And this is a column that's going to show me the version of the file. We use the existing Windows Explorer columns, and we can add our own in this new column set. I will take a quick look at this PDM standard, this other vault that I've created, because this vault has the simplest workflow you can get to. So this particular one has one state. So when you check a file in, all files go into this state called vaulted, and if you do it this way, you're not going to be going through any kind of electronic approval process or anything like that. The files are just going to be in there, and you can control access by where the files are in the vault, what folder they're in, and not by the state. If you use different states, then you can control who can see what files at different states. But just to show you that, and you don't even need a data card for that matter. You don't even need to find data cards if you don't want to. You can use the You can use the SOLIDWORKS the way you're doing it now with custom properties and custom property builder, or go into file properties, however you do it. And that's the way you want to look and find your custom properties. You can do that too. So it can really be fairly simple. All right, so the next thing we need to do to be able to access this vault from Windows Explorer is we got to create a view. So we just right-click on our vault, and we're going to create a local view. And I can put this anywhere on my desktop that I want, but I'll just put it under my C drive. I already have some other vaults there. And once we log in, there's my new vault. You can see the connection point down there, and it's empty. There's no folders. There's nothing in there. So let's add some stuff. So all you need to do is go to another location. It could be a network location. Hit the copy button, and let's go back to that. Go back to our vault and right-click new folder. So just like you would do in Windows, you right-click and say New. We got a new folder now, and we'll just paste all those files that I copied from that location outside the vault into the vault. And do this, and when it does this, PDM is reading any custom properties, and we'll display those on a data card. And it'll build the references. There's no references right now because nothing's been checked in, so we'll check in that assembly. Or I could pick everything and check it in. If I didn't know at the top level, I can just pick all those files and do a check-in, and it'll figure it out. Okay, so now that I got the files checked in, I got the information. So right in Windows Explorer, we have a preview. So you can see a static preview, or you can use the built-in eDrawings preview to do pan and zoom and markup. Here's the data card that comes along with it. You can configure these to however you want. Some version information. You get bill of material information right away, either an indented list or a parts list. You can search in this. You can sort the bill of material. You can export it to Excel if you want. It even give you a little thumbnail view of each of the parts in the bill of material. Contains will show you some of the similar information, but even if there's suppressed parts, it'll show you that those references. And where used. Now, where used is pretty important, because it'll show you where a file is used, a part is used, regardless of where it is in the vault. SOLIDWORKS Explorer can show you where used, but you have to point it in the right direction. Inside of PDM, if a part's used in multiple assemblies, you'll know. So if you're going to change a part, you know right away whether you're going to affect some other assemblies as well. All right. So now we've got our parts in there. Let's figure out what we can do with them from a SOLIDWORKS standpoint. Okay. Oh yeah, but first here I wanted to show you this. This is I just cleared the cache, and what clearing the cache means is I'm deleting or removing the physical copy of that file on my local drive. Okay, so it still shows up in Windows Explorer. It'll still display the file just like it's there, but the physical file is not yet there. And that version column over here that I added will show that as an icon there, and it'll show you that I don't have a local file. Okay, and I'll just move this. We'll move the column over so it's easier to see next to the file name and resize these columns. So if I choose a file and say, go get the latest version of that file, that icon will change to equal, saying that it's the file I have is the same as what's in the vault. Okay, so we'll go to SOLIDWORKS now. We'll start it up, and this is from a fresh start. So SOLIDWORKS will take a few seconds here to actually open up, and I'll get a sip of tea. All right, so there's a built-in integration there for PDM, but we just need to hit the open dialog. Because we can browse into a vault inside of an open dialog, whether it's SOLIDWORKS or Microsoft Word or AutoCAD or DraftSite, you can browse right into the vault. You can search in this window as well. So you really don't need any type of other interface to use SOLIDWORKS PDM. So browse into that folder, and we can change if we want to see details or large icons or small icons. And you can see that the version is, I don't have any of those local files, but it doesn't matter. I can still see it and open the file up, and then the system will automatically copy the files down to my local area that I need. Okay, so SOLIDWORKS will open up these files for me, and we'll see them appear over in the task pane area, which shows a little preview of each file that I select, and it's cross-highlighting between Feature Manager, Graphics area. And I can see here that I have older versions of files. So these files, I'm using SOLIDWORKS 2016 here. These are in 2014 or 2015 format. So if we want to update these, I'll check them out, and I'll check out all the files with that click there. And now that I have all the files checked out, I'll just do a save, which will save all the changes. And what we'll see in the task pane now, you'll see that green little clock there, and that green clock tells me that the files I have in my local cache are newer than what's been stored in the vault. Because I made a change and I saved them, it automatically lets me know that I've got some new versions there. And I can go right ahead and check those back in, and it'll create a new version of these files in the new version of SOLIDWORKS. So I can add a comment here. These comments are optional if you want, but they do help explain, what you might have done to change the file. And we'll see where that comment shows up in a little bit. It does help do that. And those you can make those mandatory or optional, like I said. All right, so now we've got two versions of everything, because the original version, if you remember, was the old version of SOLIDWORKS. And I can go back and get that old version if I want. There's that updated to 2016 comment you saw there. So now we'll just load the old files back up, the old version, and you can see that, again, I have the file as an older version. The task pane is telling me that I have older versions loaded with that red clock, and I can just go ahead and go back to the latest version, and PDM will bring all those files up. And you can do this on an entire assembly. You can do it on individual parts. If you want to see what an older version of a part looked like, you can just go get an older version of a part, and it would bring it up in the assembly, bring it up in your session, and you can switch back and forth all you want. Okay. All right. So now that I've got my file in there, let's go ahead and make some changes. I'm gonna add a file here. So we're gonna open up this one of these legs to this hexi assembly, and I'll check out the assembly because I want to add a part to it. So that means I'm going to have write access to it. Other users could open it up, but only one person can edit it at a time. I'll just pick my new part template, and I'm going to make a little foot for this little cover for this end of this thing. So I'll convert these edges, and we'll do some bidirectional extrude. Some basic SOLIDWORKS modeling here, doing it in context design. We'll extrude that out 1.5 millimeters, and then we'll go the other direction and use a handy offset from surface and give it a distance. We'll reverse it, and then we'll get on our way. One more feature here just to make it official. I'll shell that out. We'll make it a 1.5 thickness, and we'll move the top so it's got a hole for that leg. All right, so we've got a new part in there, and SOLIDWORKS inserts the part as a virtual document, as you can see, but I'll save it as an external component. PDM does understand virtual documents or internal components as well. And I can rename. SOLIDWORKS 2016 now allows you to rename inside the feature manager, and PDM fully supports that. So I'm going to change the name from Part 1 to Bumper, right? And we'll rebuild. And you can see PDM recognizes the new name, and then we'll just go ahead and check in this new assembly with those changes. And so we'll create a third version of this assembly. And again, a comment's handy here. I'll just say, added that foot cover, and you can see the bumper and all the other files. You only check in the files that you have checked out. So now I've got version 3 of that assembly because it's got the new part. And the task pane's telling me that I'm referencing some files that are not the latest version, which you might want to. That's fine. It's just letting you know that that some files aren't being referenced at the correct version. So the assembly is looking for version 2, but we've got version 3 of those leg assemblies. So to update, all I need to do is I can check out the top level and turn around and check it back in, and then it'll point to this new version of the assembly will point to the new version of the legs. And again, all these versions are being kept track of in the PDM system, so I can go back in time. So from this point, let's go back and just look at the updated model without the feet. Okay, and then it opens that up, and you can see the feet are gone, and the PDM is telling me that I've got older versions, so I can bring in the latest versions back from the vault. and then it loads them back up in SOLIDWORks. So real nice and easy. Everything's kept track of and everything. So let's go into back to Windows Explorer, because one of the other challenges that we've talked about is moving and renaming. So let's see how you do it in PDM. You can see there's some toolbox parts here. I'm going to move those. Just pick those up, select them, do a Control X or a cut, and let's make a new folder. We'll make a hardware folder. And if I was doing this without PDM, I'd have to go point the references in SOLIDWORks to look at this new folder. But with PDM, I can just create the folder, paste the parts into there, and PDM will take care of that. And then let's say that bumper, maybe I don't want to call it bumper. I just slow double click, rename that to the foot cover. And when I'm done, it's all the systems updated, all the references are updated. In PDM, the bill of materials correct. Everything's been kept up to date. And just to kind of prove that out, we'll go over to SOLIDWORks and we'll show you where all the changes have happened. Because it's one thing to do it in the PDM, but the other thing is we need to update SOLIDWORks. So we'll go over to SOLIDWORks and open that file up. Just hit that on the recent file list. And it'll open up, and you can see we don't get any error messages saying it can't find anything. And there's that foot cover part. It's been changed there. And let's see if the file locations have been updated. So we go to Find References, and here we can see that the references automatically update to that hardware folder. So everything's taken care of, and we didn't have to spend any time searching for files that were mistakenly moved or renamed, or maybe somebody deleted them by accident. The next thing I want to show you real quick is what we can do from a workflow standpoint. If you remember that workflow, we had 3 states, and the files go into the new files go into that state called Work in Process, which we can see here in the state column. So let's go ahead and change those states change the state of the entire assembly. So we right-click and use the flyout, and I can see my icons didn't update. We remember we updated those icons for those states. So let's go fix that, just to show you how easy it is to make changes and to update those changes. See, the icons, I just didn't. All I need to do is hit that Save button. It saves that workflow, and once I go back, I don't have to reload, have to restart or anything. I just go back, and now my icons are updated, and I can say Submit for approval. The other option there was for me to approve without or to no approval required. But now, once that's done, we can see that the state column has been updated with pending approval. And let's say that I'm going to approve my own work here. I'm going to say Release the documents. And again, these comments are optional, and it not only changes the state of the documents, but this new state might have different rules around it. Maybe certain people can't check it out. Maybe now that it's released, certain people can now see the file, maybe purchasing or manufacturing folks that need access to release documents. Now they can see those documents. Before, they wouldn't be able to see them if they were in work in process. So the other thing that it does is it automatically will write the revision information or other information to the file. So in the data card now, it's at Rev A. The custom properties in SOLIDWORKS have all been updated to Rev A. So any title blocks or anything in my drawings have automatically been updated to Rev A. So I don't need to go and change custom properties and make sure that the notes are all updated. The PDM system does that automatically.